Hi there, Mr. Sutton here with the AB Calculus Chapter 3 Quiz 2 Review Solutions on product and quotient rule and also trig derivatives. To figure out the derivative of a product without using the product rule, we just have to simplify first by multiplying. So foiling this out, we have negative 15x to the 7th, and then outers that'll be 3x to the 5th. Then we have negative 15x to the 2nd. And finally, 3. All right, so just going left to right and using the power rule now, this is going to be negative 105x to the 6th plus 15x to the 4th minus 30x. And then this last thing is just 0, so we're done with that derivative. To figure out the derivative of a product using the product rule, it's a good idea to write out the product rule to start. So that's u prime v plus uv prime. And then break out the box and ribbon here. So in the upper left, I'm going to put my first factor, 3x to the 5th plus 3. Upper right, I'm doing my other factor, negative 5x squared plus 1. And down below, I'm taking their derivatives. So down below the 3x to the 5th plus 3, that derivative is 15x to the 4th. And the other derivative here is going to be negative 10x. So using the ribbon now, we're starting in the lower left, going diagonal, and then coming back around. That just gives us the correct order of terms for our formula. So we've got 15x to the 4th times parentheses negative 5x squared plus 1 plus parentheses 3x to the 5th plus 3 times negative 10x. And if there's no other reason for simplifying, we can just leave it the way it is here. To figure out the derivative of a quotient without using the quotient rule, we have to have a monomial in the denominator, something that we could divide everything by easily. But we can go ahead and divide everything by x to the 5th here. So going from left to right, we've got x to the negative 2. And then x squared over x to the 5th, that's x to the negative 3. And then finally, we can write this as 5x to the negative 5. Now we'll just use the power rule. So we've got negative 2x to the negative 3, negative 3x to the negative 4, and finally this will be negative 25x to the negative 6. To figure out the derivative of something using the quotient rule, we write out the quotient rule first. So that's going to be u prime v minus uv prime over v squared, so a little different than the product rule. To use it, though, we can still use the box and ribbon to organize everything. This time in the upper left, we put our numerator, in this case x cubed plus x squared plus 5. And in the upper right, we put the denominator, x to the 5th. And then their derivatives still go down below. So 3x squared plus 2x and 5x to the 4th in this case. We can still use a ribbon pattern to organize the order of things. So we'll have parentheses 3x squared plus 2x times x to the 5th for the u prime v part of this, minus parentheses all this stuff, this trinomial, times 5x to the 4th. All of that over, now don't forget the v squared, so that's going to be x to the 5th squared. And again, don't simplify if you don't need to. To figure out the derivative of a product or quotient at a specific x value, we're going to first set things up using the box and ribbon. So in this case, we have a quotient rule that we need. So we've got u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. Setting up the box and ribbon here, I've got 5x to the 3rd plus 3x squared, my numerator. And over here, my denominator, 5x to the 4th plus 3. And down below their derivatives, which are 15x squared plus 6x. And for this one, we'll have 20x to the 3rd. Now, before I organize all this and put it back in and plug in negative 1, it's actually easier to just plug in negative 1 inside the box. So if x equals negative 1, here's what each component of this formula is going to end up looking like. So in the upper left, plugging negative 1 in here, this is going to be negative 5 plus 3, so negative 2. In the upper right, this is just going to be 5 times 1 plus 3, so 8. Lower left, this is going to be 15 minus 6, so 9. And in the lower right, this ends up being negative 20. Now I'll just use a ribbon to plug all that back in. So we have 9 times 8 minus negative 2 times negative 20. And then v squared, we're going to have 8 squared down below. So if you need to simplify, you don't need to simplify, but if you did, here's what we could do. So we've got 72 and 3 minuses is 1 minus, so that's minus 40, so 32 upstairs, 64 downstairs, and you could reduce that if you wanted to 1/2. In order to figure out this derivative, h prime, which is really just f of x times g of x, we're going to have to use the product rule in this case. So we'll set this up with u prime v plus uv prime, and then let's use the box and ribbon to organize things. So in this case, we've got f of x and g of x and their derivatives, which conveniently are f prime and g prime. Now, if x equals 1, which is what it equals because we're trying to find h prime of 1, what do all these things become? Well, we can look all of this up in the table. F of 1, that's going to be 4 according to this table, and g of 1 is going to be 2. F prime of 1, that's going to be negative 1, and then g prime of 1, that's going to be 2. Using the ribbon now to organize things to get us plugged in here, we've got negative 1 times 2 plus 4 times 2. And if you needed to simplify it, this comes out to 6. For this one, we have this table of values for f and g, and we're trying to figure out h of x, where h is really just f divided by g, so h prime of 4 specifically. We're going to need the quotient rule to get started on this, u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. And then let's set up the box and ribbon to organize things. So we've got our numerator, f of x, denominator is g of x, and their derivatives, f prime and g prime. So if x equals 4, then what do these things come out to? Well, f of 4 in the table, that's going to be 4. G of 4, that's going to be 2 according to the table. F prime of 4 is 2. So these are all in the same row, which is kind of convenient. And then g prime of 4 ends up being 1. Using the ribbon to plug all that in, we've got 2 times 2 minus 4 times 1 all over 2 squared. And if we need to simplify that, well, this is really 4 minus 4, or 0 in the numerator, so that zeroes out everything for our final answer. To take this derivative, we're going to need the product rule, u prime v plus uv prime. So here's our box and ribbon to organize things. We've got 2 sine of x and 3x to the 5th plus 5. And their derivatives, which are going to be 2 cosine of x, and this will be 15x to the 4th. Using our ribbon now, we've got 2 cosine of x times 3x to the 5th plus 5, plus 2 sine of x times 15x to the 4th. On this problem, we're going to need the quotient rule for taking the derivative. So u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. Here's our box and ribbon to organize stuff. We've got our numerator, cosine of x, denominator over here, 3x to the 4th plus 5. Derivatives of those, cosine's derivative is negative sine of x, and then this will be 12x to the 3rd. So using the ribbon to put it all together, we've got negative sine of x times 3x to the 4th plus 5, minus cosine of x times 12x cubed, all over 3x to the 4th plus 5 quantity squared. To find this derivative, I will use the product rule, u prime v plus uv prime. For our box and ribbon, we've got 6x to the 5th minus 4 and 4 tan of x. In the lower boxes here, we have their derivatives, 30x to the 4th, and derivative of tan is secant squared, so this will be 4 secant squared of x. Using the ribbon to put it together, this is going to be 30x to the 4th times 4 tan of x, plus parentheses 6x to the 5th minus 4 times 4 secant squared of x. To find this derivative, I'll use my product rule again. So I've got u prime v plus uv prime. Box and ribbon time. We've got 4x squared plus 5 and negative 9 cosecant of x. Derivatives are 8x, and cosecant's derivative is negative cosecant cotan, so this will be positive 9 cosecant of x cotan of x. For the ribbon, we've got 8x times negative 9 cosecant of x, plus parentheses 4x squared plus 5 times 9 cosecant of x cotan of x. For this derivative, we will need the quotient rule, u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. For my box, in the upper left numerator, we've got negative 2x cubed plus 5, and our denominator, 2 cotan of x. Derivatives, we've got negative 6x squared and this will be negative 2 cosecant squared of x. Putting it together with the ribbon, we've got negative 6x squared times 2 cotan of x, that's the u prime v part, minus parentheses negative 2x cubed plus 5 times negative 2 cosecant squared of x, that's a mouthful. And then finally our v squared, that's going to be 2 cotan of x quantity squared. For this derivative, we'll use the quotient rule, u prime v minus uv prime over v squared. For the box, my numerator, we've got 3x cubed plus 1. And denominator, 5 secant of x. Derivatives, we've got 9x squared. And this is going to be 5 secant of x tan of x. Using the ribbon to put it together, we've got 9x squared times 5 secant of x minus parentheses 3x cubed plus 1 times 5 secant of x tan of x, all over v squared, so that's going to be 5 secant of x quantity squared down there.